Okay, thank you all so much for joining our Q&A with our October instructor tonight. I know some of you are enrolled to our October cohort. Some of y'all are planning to enroll or just here for the free info, and we're really thankful for all of you joining tonight. We will go ahead and get started. I'm going to move through the agenda. It's going to be pretty simple. We're going to spend most of our time getting to know Samanee, obviously, who's going to lead that October cohort. But before we do, I just want to give a quick overview of who School 16 is, just to give some context. Then we'll dive into questions with Samanee and wrap with next steps for those who are interested in learning more about our program. So School 16, we are a 16-week program where we help students break into tech. We do that through skill building, career support, networking and mentorship support, and then project-based learning. The first 8 weeks of our program is our foundations course. This is where students learn the basics of the tech industry, what jobs exist, and how they all function together. Students get to cover tech sales and customer success, digital marketing, operations, and then product management. The next 8 weeks, you'll pick one of those concentrations, and that's really where you're going to deepen your learning and work on a project for those remaining 8 weeks. Samanee is going to be leading our foundations course, which is the first 8 weeks of the program. So let's get into it. I'm going to kick us off with a few questions. Then I'll open it up to y'all to ask Samanee any of your questions. As Alex had already mentioned, he's going to drop some of his in the chat. So feel free to do that if you don't want to come off mute, but definitely would love to have y'all come off mute if you're able to. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen now because, again, I just like to see people. But Samanee, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, for sure. So, hi everyone. My name is Samanee. I live in New York City, and by day, I am a product marketing manager. By night, I am a School 16 instructor, which is always fun. So, a little bit about my career. I've pretty much have been in product marketing since my junior year in college. I was a history major, so I had nothing to do with tech. I basically was able to network my way into my first job as a brand marketer, and I actually got my introduction to product marketing by working at a really cool tech company called Slack, which some of you might be familiar with. And a lot of it was just like confidence and like maybe overconfidence and just like and being like, I am totally smart enough to do this, and just doing a lot of like self teaching. I wish I had something like School 16. I'm very self-taught in my own marketing career. I literally would Google like, what is product marketing? What is marketing? How do I do this job? And try to kind of like wing it. And that's sort of like how, and I think that sort of like passion really worked well for me. And that's how I got a lot of my jobs. And then I just kind of learned a lot of the things on the spot. So some things I have done in my product marketing career. I'll take one step back. I'll actually kind of explain what product marketing is.
Yeah, love that.
So I would think about it as product marketing is almost like you're the CMO, the chief marketing officer of the product that your company is selling. So I'm usually in charge with, I would say like 2 to 3 things. One is product launches. So anytime your company builds a new product or is like updating it or building a new feature, it's my job to almost like figure out how to market it and how to tell people that like, hey, we're building this amazing thing and you should know about it. So a lot of that is very strategic. It's a lot of project management, and it's a lot of just like working with everyone else in your company and trying to convince them to help you do this job, even though you're not their manager. So that is a big part of product marketing. The other part, specifically in what I do, is called sales enablement. So typically in the companies I work with, you have a sales team that is selling the product. It's my job to make sure they actually know what to say. So I help them with their storytelling, their pitches. I usually will make their decks. I'll write their case studies. I'll write like one pagers they use. So I joke I do everything for sales except sell. That is their job. And so that's the other part of product marketing, and also making sure they just kind of know like who our competitors are, how to talk about us, what's a competitive landscape. So those are sort of the 2 big components of product marketing. I love it because it's very cross-functional, it's very strategic. It gives you sort of like a bird's eye view of an entire company between sales and product and marketing. Those are sort of the three teams you sit on top of. And in my career, as I mentioned, I pretty much have only just done product marketing at both large tech companies like Slack, like Crunchbase, like Zapier, to smaller tech companies like one called SecureFrame, and at my current company, Lumos, which is like we just hit 50 people. So it's a very small company right now. I've generally enjoy like the earlier stage because you get to do a lot of the building. You're kind of thrown into the fire, you kind of have to figure it out. And it's kind of fun to be at the early stages of a company and you're helping them figure out like how to survive, how to like sell the product, how to like build processes. I seem to thrive in that environment. And so I've kind of stuck with early stage startups in my product marketing career.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Okay, so taking it back a little bit, because I love that you had a history, you got your degree in history,
Mhm.
because I think like a lot of people think they need a computer science degree to get into tech,
Mhm.
or they think they need some technical knowledge.
Yeah.
So kind of curious, what was like your first job out of college?
Mhm.
And then like to add on to that question, what are like the transferable skills that you have
Yeah.
regardless of the industry that you're currently in? Because as you know, most of our students don't work in tech.
Yeah,
So like they
absolutely.
they create a lot of fictional barriers
Yeah.
that aren't really real. So
Yeah, no,
yeah.
absolutely. So one thing I always like to remind people who are trying to break into tech is most jobs in the tech industry are non-technical.
Mhm.
Between marketing, which I do, sales, operations, customer success, business operations, like the only real quote unquote technical jobs are basically software engineering and maybe product management. But even then, product
Mhm.
management is not necessarily inherently that technical depending on the company. So I want
Mhm.
to like emphasize that most of tech is actually very non-technical and very accessible. In
Mhm.
terms of my own path, so the first job I had out of college was as a brand marketer at a startup called Rothy. So they're an e-commerce
Mhm.
company that sells women's shoes made out of recycled water bottle plastic.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it's like they were doing really, really well. They're a super cool
Mhm.
company. You will probably see their ads like everywhere all the time because they were very good at
Mhm.
doing that. And then after that, I kind of went back into tech because I was at Slack before Rothy's and I went to Crunchbase
Mhm.
after Rothy. So I kind of want to explore more like a physical product.
Yeah.
Uh, I would say in terms of the transferable skills, and I kind of encourage a lot of my students to do this when they're reading job descriptions, is you'll tend to see most of it is very just like people orientated soft skills. A lot of it's just like good communication skills, good writing skills,
Mhm.
good project management skills. I would say in my history major, I basically learned like how to learn something very quickly, how
Mhm.
to
Mhm.
write well, how to communicate well, and just like how to present. Like that's a big part of my job is just it's so
Yeah.
people orientated. And so I learned a lot of those skills, both with like my history major and also just like I was in a lot of leadership positions in clubs and stuff, or like I
Mhm.
volunteered, and all of those are completely transferable skills into careers in tech. I think the other thing I would emphasize is a lot of it is you learn on the job. You're not
Mhm.
expected to have all the knowledge. What you can do
Mhm.
is basically like go research the job you're interested in. If there's jargon that you're just not sure, like go learn the words. Like I kind of had to just brush up on like marketing lingo.
Yeah.
But I think just showing anytime I interview, just showing them like, hey, like I recognize like, I don't have a marketing degree, but like I've done my research on your company. I've done my research
Mhm.
on what this role is. I think I have a pretty good idea, and I'm like really hungry to learn on the job, and I'm smart enough to do that. I think if you're
Mhm.
able to express those traits, um, most people are very, very receptive to that. And
Mhm.
most people, like most companies, like recognize like they're going to teach you things on the job anyway.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, yeah. No, I like that you bring up it's a lot of soft skills because when I talk with prospective students, we talk about how strong their skills are. It's just not the technical,
Yeah.
non-technical part of the work, which I guess that is kind of what School 16 does. So that leads us into how in the classroom are
Mhm.
you helping students gain these like applicable real world skills that they need?
Yeah, absolutely. So kind of like so I would say a few things we do. So the first is School 16 has a fantastic curriculum that we teach that just goes very into detail into like different types of roles. So between marketing, from sales to product management to operations. So we really give you a high level overview, at least in foundations that I teach. So you like understand all the roles that exist, all the jargon and words that exist within this. So you have like a good understanding of what's out there. The second thing we do is we do a lot of like breakout sessions and projects within the course. So it's very hands-on, it's very interactive. I hate lecturing, like I'm kind of lecturing right now, but that's not what we do most of the time.
Yeah.
It's very interactive. I love asking questions to my students, and kind of like helping them think through like, hey, this is a hypothetical situation you might see at a company. How might you go approach doing that? So we try to make it as interactive as possible. And I think the projects also really help you really like sink in the value or like the teaching or the material that you're learning. And the other thing we try to do, it just came out of my head, so it's like project. And the other thing is as much as possible, I try to use real world examples. I've now worked at 7 companies. So I have a lot of kind of experience across various types of tech companies. And I'm very fortunate that as a product marketer, I actually have very high visibility into different roles in a company. So as much as I can, I try to use examples from my previous experience, and ask my students, like, what do you think I did? Hear their feedback and be like, oh, I should have actually done that. That's not a bad suggestion. And kind of as much as possible, like I think using real world examples really helps drive like the course material.
Yeah. I think I talk to a lot of students who maybe have their bachelor's degree, and it's interesting talking with them because they feel that they have the knowledge already. But once you leave college, you quickly learn that college taught me a lot of theory, but not applied skills. And so I love that we really are getting into those real world examples, and that's the type of classroom that you create. So thank you for sharing. I am going to pause here and see if anybody has questions out in the audience. And feel free to drop them in the chat if you don't want to come off mute, but we would love you to come off mute if you feel comfortable doing so.
Anybody? You can pause it in the chat.
Yeah.
Hi, I have a question actually regarding like the financial aid process. I'm interested in like the marketing aspect of the program. Do you guys provide any scholarships, or do you have to pay like out of pocket fully or partially?
Yeah, great question. Is it Karina? Is that your name?
Yes.
Yeah, great question, Karina. So our program's tuition is $5,950. We really pride ourselves on being accessible and affordable. So we do offer financial need-based scholarships for each cohort. And after we're done with the Q&A, I'll kind of walk through the process of what the application and admissions process looks like. But during the interview is where you're going to connect with your interviewer, and let them know that, hey, I'm interested in a scholarship. And we usually just ask some pretty basic questions, getting an understanding of your financial circumstances. And that helps us kind of figure out how large of a scholarship we can offer you. We also have several payment plans that range anywhere from 3 months all the way up to 30 months, depending on your credit, and if you are a US citizen. We have a lot of flexible payment options for students. So definitely we try to make sure that we're affordable for students. Does that answer your question, Karina?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, you're welcome. And really good questions. So thank you. Alex got one in the chat. So great question, Alex. What do you enjoy most about being a product marketing manager? I love that.
Great job. Great question. So there's a saying in tech, which is if you build it, they will come, which is not true. And I always knew I was not a technical person. So I was always very curious about the question, how do you convince people to come? And that's kind of what product marketing is. I think the thing I really enjoy about it is one, it's a very multi-dimensional role. Like I joke, it's great for somebody who gets bored very easily because no one day is the same. It's a combination of, it's very strategic because you design product launches. And so you're trying to figure out like literally how to tell the world about you and how to work with all your marketing resources. It's very creative in my opinion, because you have to get creative with your product launches. You get to do a lot of writing, you get to do a lot of building like collateral, which I find very creative because I really enjoy writing, being a history major. I also love that it's a very people orientated role. There's a running joke in product marketing is, you know, you're successful if nobody's complaining about you, because like you literally are sitting between sales, marketing, and product. Like you're trying to keep all of them happy. You're kind of like the glue between all of them. So if you're a very like people orientated person, or particularly extroverted, doesn't mean you can't be an introvert and in product marketing, but if you tend to really enjoy interfacing with a lot of people, I think it's a really great role, and I love people and I love the team I work with. And it's a very I think the last thing I like about it's a very high visibility role with a lot of responsibility and leadership. So I'm, all things considered, like very early in my career. I'm maybe like 3-4 years out of college, but I literally run meetings with my CEO. I literally met with my CEO yesterday. I run like full product launches for multi-million-dollar companies. And that's just inherent to product marketing is you run the meetings with your CEO, your COO, your head of product, your head of sales. Like they look to you to decide like how to build a strategy of that. And it's very rare to get that level of visibility and responsibility early on in your career. You kind of have to like really work your way there in, I think, other roles, but product marketing, and I would say product management is probably the other one. You tend to get almost like fast track to that level of responsibility. So it's a role that tends, a lot of people from product marketing tend to go become chief marketing officer. So it also has a really fantastic career trajectory as well, if that's like something you're interested in.
Yeah, I love that. I just talked to a student today who she talked about how she likes a lot of things, she enjoys a lot, and she's good at a lot of things, which is a good problem to have. But we talked about how product management or product marketing could be a good route for her because, like you said, you're constantly doing something. You're always being challenged, and it really can pull on so many of your strengths. So I love that. Holy cannoli, I can't believe we only have 4 minutes left. So I definitely want to make sure that folks get their questions answered before I kind of dive into the next steps of our program. But any other questions that y'all have for
Hey,
Samanee?
sorry,
Yeah,
I have a question.
yeah.
Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. So I know you mentioned that you do a lot of presentations. Like, that's something that I struggle with, like doing presentations in front of people. What do you do to prepare yourself for that, or that's just something you're like naturally good at?
Yeah, that's a great question. Definitely, like it's something I can always get better at. I would say, so it's not necessarily per se giving presentation, but you tend to run meetings, I would say, and you might have a deck with you. I would say the best way to prepare for that, and the way I've gotten better, is one, just being prepared. So like knowing the material you're going to present, knowing that you know everything and you've thought about everything. So for example, if I'm running a product launch for something, so I want to make sure like I understand what the product is. I want to make sure like my sales team like understands like what they're pitching. I make sure I ask for a lot of help. It's like a role that inherently you're not the expert in anything, and so you rely on a lot of people. So a lot of it's also just getting comfortable asking for help as well. And all of that makes sure that you are very prepared for the presentation that you're giving to like, you know, senior leadership. The other way to practice is just like practicing with your manager. Like hopefully you have a great manager and you can say like, this is not my strongest skill set. Like, can you mock present this with me? And that's, I used to do that pretty early on in my career, is like I just literally went through the presentation with my manager like the first couple of times, and they gave me feedback. And even to this day when I run meetings, like my manager will like in my one-on-ones, also be the type of person that asks for feedback. Maybe people don't inherently give it to you. So during my one-on-ones with my manager, I'm like, hey, I give this presentation. Like, what do you think? What could I have done better? So also be the type of person that asks for feedback and try to implement it. So I think those ways you'll over time get better. Like you won't, there's definitely things I'm really bad at, and over time I've gotten better.
Yeah, I love
Thank
that.
you.
And that's a good question, Betsy. And just to like piggyback on that a little bit, I like public speaking is one of my biggest fears. And when we switched to like a remote world, it definitely has helped. But even before I did a remote working environment and gave presentations in front of like big audiences, et cetera, for me, it really is just like that repetition. And just you just got to keep doing it. And as Samanee mentioned, getting feedback, talking to your manager, and asking, hey, how can I improve in practicing? So just, it can be a scary thing, but it is possible to overcome your fear and nerves. So again, I enjoyed that question. Any other questions from y'all? Okay, I got just one more question for you, Samanee, as I'm gonna start sharing my screen again. But curious, like what's the best advice you think you could give somebody, one of these prospective students who are like, hey, I don't know if I should make this leap into tech. Like, what's your best advice on doing so?
Yeah, just do it anyway. Like you
Love it.
will, yeah, like you'll never feel prepared. There's like that famous stat, which is like what men apply for like jobs that they're like 60% qualified for, women it's like 100. The way I framed it to my students is if you read a job description and you can do everything on it, that's actually not a good job for you, because it means you have no room to learn. You want to look for things where you're like, I could kind of do most of it, and there's a lot that I have the capacity to learn. But I always tell people, like, go apply anyway. Let them say no to you. Don't say no to yourself.
Yeah.
And so that's what I usually encourage people in tech is like, if me, like a random girl from Bangladesh who moved to the States and studied history of all things, which my parents did not understand my decision. And I end up working at like, like 7 tech companies at this point, and some of like the best ones out there. Like if I can do it, you absolutely can. Like all it requires is you just at least giving it like a really, really good shot. And you have something like School16 giving you so much of the support, infrastructure, mentors. We have career advisors. You have me as like the instructor. Like we're all here to help you and give you advice. But a lot of it's just like self-belief in yourself. Like I remember we had one student in my last cohort named Noelle, who's this really awesome, like 40-year-old woman who's just been like working in like sales, but not in tech, but like in sales and other careers. And she like told me, she's like, the fact that like I see you, another like woman of color, like killing it in tech, like inspires me to like go like try it. So to all of you kind of like watching and be like, you don't look like what typically looks in tech, that's exactly why you should go do it, because we need more of it. And just do it. It's like very Nike, like just go do it. And the worst that'll happen is they'll say no, and you keep trying because there's so many companies out there.
Yeah, I love that advice. And it's Nike's slogan is the best because it's so fitting for so many things. Like you're right, just do it. Just like take the leap of faith. And as you mentioned, we have a really great supportive staff here at School16 to help you along the way. So it's not like you have to do it alone. And what I love about School16 is we make sure that we have women of color leading our classes and being the mentors, because we know that us women of color all face different barriers. And so having somebody that looks like us to see that we can do it as well is really impactful. So I love that you touched on that too, Samanee. So thank you. Okay, I'm gonna go back to sharing my screen real quick for the last slide. So folks that are interested in joining our October cohort, I highly recommend tonight you head to this website. I'll send an email with the link to it at the end of this, but go ahead and apply to our October cohort. Apply tonight. It takes 5 to 10 minutes top, so it's super quick application. After you submit your app, within 1 to 2 business days, somebody from the admissions team will reach out to you if you are invited back to an interview. Again, schedule that interview ASAP because as you see, our cohort starts in a little over a week. So we want to help you and make sure that you get enrolled and can learn from Samanee. So again, apply tonight, schedule your interview this week. And so you can join us in October. Oh my gosh, there we go. All the classes, it's a 16-week program. As I'd mentioned, they take place 2 nights a week from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern time. All the instruction is live, so you get to build community with your classmates, really get to know Samanee and ask those questions in real time. As Karina had asked, here's going to be that tuition. This tuition is all encompassing, so you are not going to pay for software, computer stuff, anything like that. And then during the interview is where you'll talk with your interviewer about scholarships and what we can offer you to make sure that you can take advantage of this and be able to invest in yourself so that you can have a really strong career in the tech space. As I'd mentioned, cohort starts in a week and a half, so definitely apply tonight if you are able to. And